advocate, podcast host, and everything in between. Questions that you have about mental health and asking a bipolar advocate. My name is Camera. I am the digital media producer at The Mighty. I will be assisting and asking some wonderful questions and getting your questions to the phenomenal Gabe. But if you want to introduce yourself, Gabe, go right ahead.
Hello, everybody. First, a huge round of applause to Camera. She spends so much of her time behind the scenes that getting her in front of the camera, so Camera's in front of the camera. I know it's an original joke that you've never heard until just this moment, is a huge, huge, huge thing. Normally you hear me thanking her and you probably think, why is Gabe thanking a camera? It's a real person, so Camera, thank you for all that you do. My name is Gabe Howard, and I am a podcast host. I'm the host of the Inside Mental Health podcast over on Psych Central. You can check it out on your favorite podcast player or by heading over to psychcentral.com/show. I am also the author of Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations. Yes, I wrote a book with asshole in the title. My grandmother is so proud, but it's 380 pages of awesome. I am very fond of saying that there is something in this book that everybody will love, and there is something in this book that every person will hate. So, you know, much like my first marriage, it is a love-hate relationship, but it's a very cool book, and I'll sign it and I'll mail it straight to your house. You just have to head over to gabehoward.com. I live with bipolar disorder, and I was diagnosed back in 2003, and I went through a lot. That's really the bottom line. I went through a lot to get diagnosed. I went through a lot to get treatment, and I went through a lot to reach recovery. And when I finally did reach recovery after 4 years, I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. Somebody needs to fix this. I realized I was somebody. I became an advocate, and I just started trying to work around the margins to make things better for people who live with mental illness. It culminated in, of course, the podcast. It culminated in the book. It culminated in just so many things. But I'm very, very happy to be live on The Mighty answering your questions. So, Camera, are we ready to get started?
Yes, I think we've just got to get these questions going. We want to hear from you. So please, we want to hear what your questions are. Whether it's anxiety, bipolar, obviously, if there is something that we cannot tackle or that is not in our retrosphere, we might skip over, but not because we do not care, but because we do not want to give you the wrong information. We are not licensed psychiatrists or therapists, so that is just with the knowing, but we are here to support you. So let us know what your questions are, and we are excited to hear from you. But in the meantime, I believe we have like a first question from one of our last questions that we didn't get to answer. So I'll bring that to the screen while we are waiting for people to submit their questions. Remember, make them short. They'll more likely be answered if they're short.
Shorter is better.
Always. Let's see. Here we go. One of the first questions that we would like to kind of talk about first would be, I've never liked the term recovery, but remission or cure sounds wrong too. What are your opinions on that, Gabe?
I have a lot of opinions when it comes to policing language, just in the general world. I often feel that we're policing the wrong thing. Like, I think that if we're going to police anything, we should police context. And the reason why is because if somebody walks up to me and says, Gabe, you're a man living with bipolar disorder, and I do not want you around my children because I feel that you might not be in the best potential mental space and not have the emotional well-being to be around my kids. See, all those words are right? Like nobody said anything that makes anybody mad there, except for the fact that the subtext of that is, Gabe, you're too crazy to be around children, and I don't trust you. So I'm much, much, much more concerned about the context of things. I understand that recovery is not a perfect word, remission's not a perfect word, but the bottom line is we need a word, and we have collectively decided on recovery. So let's worry about the context of what it means to live in recovery. And what it means to live in recovery for me personally is that I spend more of my time living my life than I do managing bipolar and anxiety. So maybe I spend 5-10% of my life managing the illness, but the other 90-95% of the time is mine. So that is my definition of recovery. And here's the great part. You can define recovery however you want. So when we're paying attention to the context of the word, which means doing well in spite of mental illness, and we understand that we can define it however is best for us to move forward and live our best life, I think that we can all acknowledge that maybe we get too hung up on the actual words and not hung up enough on the context behind the words and what we're trying to accomplish, which is to live well. So thank you. I love that question. It comes up a lot, actually, so very cool. All right, camera. Are you ready for the next question?
Yes, we've got a good amount of community questions and a lot of like first bipolar questions. So let's get into some bipolar discussions. First, kind of this feeling and emotion. How do you get past the always roller coaster of bipolar? And if you want to maybe go into what like the kind of action of that means to you, Gabe, and what that is.
Yeah, so first off, Karen, acknowledging that your emotions are going on a roller coaster is part of the solution. So many people, they don't give themselves enough credit for recognizing that there is an issue. I talk to so many people that are clearly on the roller coaster of bipolar, and they're like, no, I'm fine. I'm as steady as a rock. And I think, wow, that's going to be so difficult to be able to affect any sort of change or help them move forward because they don't see it. That's number one. Like, give yourself a big pat on the back. Number two, managing the roller coaster of bipolar disorder. One, it does take medical intervention 9.9 times out of 10. I am positive that there is somebody out there that is managing it without medical intervention, and that is their journey, and they have good on them. I'm proud of them, and I would never, ever, ever try to stop them from doing that. For me, it's impossible. I needed a doctor and I needed medical intervention to help take my emotions from this to this. And see, I can manage in here. The next thing is this awareness. And not just the awareness of when you're up or when you're down, but the awareness of when you're going up or you're going down. And I think that has a lot of power because there's a point in mania when I'm heading toward mania that I still have some control to use some coping skills, to calm down, to acknowledge it, to affect my ability to climb and start to stabilize and move back down. But once I hit mania, forget it, it's over. I have no control. Mania is controlling me. Same thing with depression. So one of the ways to get off the roller coaster is not just to recognize when you're at the tippy top of the hill or when you're heading down that hill, but to recognize when some of the things are starting in place that you're getting on it. Do you notice that you're in a queue? Do you notice that there's weird music playing? Do you notice that there's a roller coaster car? Is somebody saying keep your legs and arms inside it? See, then you might realize, hey, I think I might be in line for a roller coaster. And it's my opinion that when you're in line for the roller coaster, that's when you can do some things to not get on the coaster in the first place. Once you're on the coaster, you're kind of stuck, right? So learning about the entire range of your emotions and not just the extremes has been extraordinarily helpful for me. Thank you so much, Karen. All right, camera.
Wonderful.
I love it when you're back.
Oh, thank you. So before we go to the next question, I see a little question in here that we can just talk about your book for a second again. Where can we go to buy the book, Gabe? Where
So
can we
obviously,
go?
yeah, I mean, the book is on Amazon. It's in Barnes and Noble. It's anywhere that books are sold. But you can also head over to gabehoward.com, which is really easy because it's just my name, gabehoward.com. And if you buy it directly from me, not only can I sign it, which is ultra cool because you never know when my signature might be worth something. But I'll throw in all kinds of free swag and free swag. I mean, who wouldn't want like all kinds of stickers, which I think I'm holding backwards. It's really cool. Thank you so much, Karen. I hope that you and anybody else who would like it checks it out. It really is a very, very cool book.
Fantastic.
All
All
right,
right,
next
let's get to the
question.
question. Amber, another bipolar question. Will bipolar go away or is it a lifelong thing? Gabe, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, Amber. So yeah, it's a lifelong thing. But here's, hang on. I that sounds like really scary. You'll have bipolar disorder for the rest of your life. That is true. But bipolar disorder is very, very damaging and detrimental at its extremes, right? You know, the suicidal depression, the godlike mania, the whiplashes, the crisis points, and those can be controlled. And it takes time, effort, medical intervention. A lot of time it takes psychopharmacology. It takes diet and exercise. It takes coping skills. It takes therapy. It takes peer support. It takes support groups. It takes learning, and it takes a lot of hard work. I will always have bipolar disorder. But when I was 25 years old, bipolar disorder had me. I had no control over my life. I had no control over anything. And here I am at 44, and it's a mild annoyance. I mean, I've got to worry about it. I've got to keep on top of it. I can't, I'm not 100% perfect and well or cured, but it's something that I manage very, very well because I've learned to manage it and because I got the right interventions and treatment. So yes, it is a lifetime thing, but with hard work and medical intervention and peer support and coping skills and therapy and support groups, you can learn to manage it and make its impact significantly less. Thank you so much, Amber. All right, Cameron, what's next?
What's next? We've got some stigma questions here.
Ooh, I like stigma questions.
So Stephanie wants to know, what advice can you give when people judge your illness? That there's that stigma. Like, what do you do when someone puts that stigma or doesn't want to talk about when they judge your bipolar?
Yeah, isn't stigma like I'm trying not to swear, which is odd since the book has asshole right in the title, but isn't stigma a bitch? I mean, sincerely, like it's just you're just minding your own business, you're hanging out, and all of a sudden somebody's like, "Hey, I heard this thing about you. Now I know everything about you. I'm going to judge you based on it. And I'm going to make decisions off this little piece of information that I have about you." There is a part of me that's like, "Hey, that says so much more about them than it does about you."
Yep.
Put that in your pocket because I do think it's helpful. The second thing I want to say is it's okay to complain about this, right? It's okay to get together with your friends, your support group, your online community on the Mighty, on Psych Central, on whatever, and just say, this sucks. Somebody judged me for something that's not my fault. That's okay. Venting is okay. But here's the advice that gets me thrown out of parties. The best thing that I recommend is to take a deep breath and use it as a learning opportunity. I know, not only do you have to have an illness, but you're also like the designated spokesperson for that illness. But I got to tell you, I think that important conversations happen. I believe very strongly in the concept of Hanlon's razor. Hanlon's razor states, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it basically says, never attribute to malice what is better described by stupidity. And it essentially means don't think that people are being mean, just assume they're being dumb. Because all of us can be dumb. There's all kinds of things that we don't understand, and we say the wrong thing, not because we're malicious, not because we're mean, not because we're filled with hate, but because we're ignorant, because we don't know, because we spoke more than we understood in the moment. And when people start yelling and screaming at us, well, we dig our heels in. We don't want to have a conversation. We don't want to have a learn. We don't want to change our mind. We don't want to do anything. We're just like, no, and we start fighting. We get our cackles up, right? But when somebody says, hey, Gabe, have you considered? And I think to myself, no, I didn't consider that at all. I didn't understand it from that perspective. I only understood it from mine. That's a really good point. And we have a conversation. That makes me change my mind about so many things in the world. And I have used this technique when people have said things like, oh, the weather is so bipolar. I think, why do you think that? And they say, well, because of X. And I'll say, well, that is a fair point, but people who are living with this illness, or maybe who know somebody who died from this illness or who's homeless because of this illness, can you see how maybe they would hear that and think, that's a little extreme? And people are like, I never really thought about it that way. And all of a sudden we're having a discussion. Now, I'm not saying that everybody immediately agrees with Gabe Howard and the lights go off and the heavens open. No, a lot of people are just like, okay, well, thank you. And then they walk away. But I like to believe that they're thinking about it. And some people have. They've caught up with me months, years later and said, Gabe, I remember when we talked about that. You are so right. And I'm like, it's not me that was right about it. Like this is Hanlon's razor. It's some guy who I don't even know. I assume his name is Hanlon. Actually, listen to me. Look what I just did there. I said I assume his name is Hanlon. Somebody should pull me aside and explain that, women can be philosophers as well.
Yeah.
Camera, thank you so much. What's the next question?
We've got a good question and good timing.
Oh,
Allison
nice.
came on to the chat and has been hit with a wave of depression, having some rough thoughts, and wants to know, what do we do when this happens? What are the good tips and tactics?
Allison, first and foremost, I say this a lot. Recognizing the symptom of depression is half the battle. Sincerely, it really is half the battle. I cannot stress that enough. So many people think that I'm just, giving them some sort of lip service to make them feel better. No. When I had the most extreme depression of my entire life, I didn't even know it. I thought this was normal. And so one, kudos. Recognition is key. So big round of applause, Allison. So here are some things that you can do. And again, there are a million things that you can do, and you've got to find the ones that work for you. So I'm just going to kind of hit some high suggestions that have worked for many people. First off, and I know this is, when's the best time to plant a tree? 100 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. So it's really, really good to do some productive things when you're well. Like, for example, one of the things that I do, and I'm going to see if I can kind of show it. I have this little bulletin board that I made. See, it's got something from my niece. It's got some nice letters that people wrote me. It's got a picture of my wife. I call that bulletin board my bulletin board of positivity. It's my bulletin board of accomplishments. It has different names depending on my mood. But when I start to get depressed and angry and I start to feel negative, worthless, whatever, I look at that board. And I look at all the people that have written me nice letters. I look at my stickers or the things that I've accomplished, or my niece's drawing, or whatever. I also have, you can see behind me the other way. That's where I keep awards that I've been given, or trinkets that I've been given. My little mug and just things that bring me happiness. And I look at them and I just remember, okay, I do feel depressed, but I'm also capable of doing the things that are represented on these shelves and on that bulletin board. And that does help. Now, that means that in the middle of it, I've done the thing that I have prepped for. If you haven't done that yet, here are some tried and true ideas. Believe it or not, go for a walk. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I can't walk very far. Everybody thinks when they hear go for a walk that you're talking about like a 4-mile uphill hike. Yeah, walk around, walk to the mailbox. Walk to the end of your driveway. Walk to the end of your apartment complex. Walk around your house or your apartment building or your condo. It can be literally 3 minutes, and just do it. Because in order to go for a walk outside, you also have to accomplish some other things that you really need to give yourself credit for, like putting on clothes, putting on a coat, putting on shoes, all of those things. All of those things are accomplishments. Part of the problem with depression and with mental illness is it robs our ability to think in an entirety. One of the things that we always say in our society is that somebody graduated from college, like it's one accomplishment. Yeah, it's not one accomplishment. This person accomplished enrolling in college, getting into college, going to college. They accomplished surviving their freshman year. They accomplished becoming a sophomore. They graduated from their freshman, sophomore, junior, and then ultimately senior year. They found all of their classes. They chose a major. They passed test after test after test. And these are all accomplishments that we just somehow scrunch into one accomplishment and say graduated from college. You have accomplished things. You may not have beaten depression yet, but you have accomplished things on the road, and you have to give yourself credit. Take that credit, take that success, put it in your pocket, be proud of yourself, and move forward. Pride, move forward. I know that you can do it. Write all that down. Start a bulletin board. I guarantee, Allison, that you are an amazing person and you've accomplished many things that you are absolutely proud of. Keep those things in a place where you know where to find them when depression strikes, so that you can pull them out and say, hey, I am awesome. Because Allison is awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Camera, you ready for the next question? Now I'm
Yes,
pulling
I
out. I'm pulling
am.
out the minion. But look,
It's
now
cute.
the it's a squishy, poor little minion.
No, and I just want to say like one thing to Allison, like there's like a podcast I just listened to had a really great quote. I do not remember who said the quote, but it's like pain demands to be felt. And I think within whatever illness you're going to, whether it's physical or depression, like you're feeling like it's okay to feel that, and it's okay to like kind of sit in that and be there, but know that that's not going to last forever. I just think that that's something I really wanted to say. So yeah, write it down and kind of feel like what do you want to be feeling that isn't there, and like that you why is it being demanded to be felt right now? So
Excellent, excellent advice.
cool. All right, we've
Camera's
got a
awesome.
few questions with this. And we're going back to the bipolar train. Like, let's get into some bipolar facts, Gabe. Like,
All
let's talk.
right.
Yeah, let us talk about what are the signs and symptoms of bipolar.
Bipolar disorder has a ton of signs and symptoms and can only ever be diagnosed by a licensed psychologist,
Mhm.
a medical doctor. So I want to be very, very clear that we're going to hit some stereotypes of some things to look out for so that you can get in your mind a suspicion. Because it's okay to suspect that you have an illness. It's not okay to diagnose yourself one. Suspicion of illness is why we all go to doctors. You know, I suspect I have the flu, so we go to the, I suspect, and that's why we go to the doctor. So suspicion, okay. Diagnosis, not okay. Please do not diagnose yourself, your friends, or your loved ones. So the signs of bipolar disorder, the big ones are the suicidal depression coupled with the mania. Now, bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 differ a little. With bipolar 2, you have hypomania and depression. With bipolar 1, you have the depression and then what's considered like full-blown mania. So those are, but it's the manic component, that godlike, consequence-free sort of environment where you think you are better than everybody else despite any evidence, and you're manic, you have all this energy, you're not sleeping, etc., coupled with that depression. There's some other signs as well, but those are the big ones. You know, bipolar comes from those two poles, right? It's also having, you know, mood swings. You're normal, you're manic, you're normal, you're manic, you're normal, you're manic, and that can be signs of bipolar disorder as well. There's there's lots of other signs, but those are the big ones. If somebody thinks that they are garbage one day and they think that they are the second coming of the savior of the world the next day, that is highly unusual and could be a sign that they're suffering from bipolar disorder or some other mental health challenge. So chronic mood swings, depression mixed with anxiety, or depression mixed with mania, those are the telltale signs. But listen, get it checked out. For some reason in mental health, people believe that they have to know for a
Yeah.
fact that they have this mental illness in order to go to a doctor. We don't feel this way in physical health. We're like, hey, I feel bad, that's it, that's enough to go to the doctor. If you feel bad emotionally, that's enough to go to a doctor. Mental health is no different.
Yeah, don't diagnose
Camera,
yourself. Find a
don't.
professional to do that. Like it's great that you're asking these questions, and it's great that you're wondering, or like wondering whether it's for a family member or for yourself. But in the end of the day, we can't tell you that. You can't tell yourself that. Only a professional can. So oh my word. We have a lot of bipolar questions today, and I'm just loving the kind of support that I'm seeing here with the how do we get things done. And Sarah has a kind of a good question. I feel like where do you get motivation? Where do you get the discipline? How can I get things done when you're struggling with bipolar and depression or bipolar depression?
Yeah, so Sarah, first off, I sort of alluded to this earlier where I talked about, you know, the whole college thing, how we tend not to give ourselves credit for the little steps that lead to the big victories, right? Graduating from college has all these little steps, so I won't repeat myself. But one of the ways that I get things done is I write everything down. And I'm going to use showering because when I'm really depressed, you know, bipolar depression just kills hygiene for me. That's like a really, really big one. So now we often call showering getting ready. I got ready, like it's one thing, right? It's not. It's a lot of things. It's shaving. It's washing your hair. It's brushing your teeth. It's getting in the shower. It's picking out clothes. It's putting the clothes on. It's making sure we match. It's putting the shoes on, right? That's like 5, 6, 7. That's like 8 accomplishments. You need to write them all down. Like no detail is too small. I'm serious here. People are like, oh, well, taking the cap off the toothpaste. Yes, if taking the cap off the toothpaste is hard, write that down. So yeah, just write it all down. And then as you accomplish each one, cross it off. You can use a dry erase marker on a mirror. You can get a dry erase pad or just find scratch pad. But yes, write everything down, scratch it off as you achieved it. Turned on water, adjusted to right temperature. Success. Got in shower. Success. Used soap on undercarriage. Success. Sincerely, I cannot be more clear. Write it all down. And as you achieve it, cross it off. Because the more stuff you achieve, it builds on itself. And so often when we're depressed, we start writing down these ridiculous goals. Get job, clean house, make more money. These are big goals. You know, cleaning your apartment can take a couple of hours. Why don't you write down, clean kitchen or clean table? That's a much more manageable goal. And then when you accomplish it, you can take that success, put it right in your pocket and be proud of yourself, cross it off the list, and then move forward. Last but not least, don't beat yourself up for how long it takes. The number of times that I think to myself, well, I'm a failure. It took me 2 hours to clean the kitchen and everybody else only takes an hour. So what? Take 4 hours. It's your damn kitchen. I don't know why we do this to ourselves, why we decide that taking 4 hours to get ready is too long. Look, we're depressed. We move slower. The fact that we got it done is enough. Everybody is faster at something. Usain Bolt can run like a lot faster than me. I'm not going to stop running just because there's somebody faster out there. Also, brutal honesty, I would never run because I would fall over and die. But sincerely, just because there are better sports players doesn't mean that we can't play sports. There's probably a better Facebook Liver, but I'm still here.
Well, I feel like the idea of like someone being better than you or someone being able to do, even if it's just like, oh, this person can clean their house in this amount of time and I can't, that doesn't mean you're unworthy or unable to, or that the way that you do it is the wrong way, or that you are wrong for the time it takes. I think that's not, no, that's a no.
It's stinking thinking. I hate to say that because, but it really is. Also, it's an excuse. It's the excuses that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
I can't accomplish this goal because somebody else does it faster. That makes no sense. That person is not us. They do not have to live our lives. So what that they're faster? Also, you ever notice that we take like all the things that we do and we compare it to like 20 people? Well, I can't do Facebook Live because camera's better at Facebook Live, so that's why I'm not doing that. And I can't balance my checkbook because my wife balanced a checkbook better because she's better than that. But I'm comparing myself to like 20 different people, right? The reality is let's go with cameras Facebook Living. Camera's better at Facebook Live than me. Okay. But you know what? There's got to be something that I am better at camera than. There just has to be. Maybe I'm a better cook. I don't know.
Probably, yes.
Yeah. So that's my point. In order to beat ourselves up, we go find this huge array of people and compare ourselves to all of them. Nobody can be good at everything. Nobody can. It's impossible. You will be better than somebody at something, and they will be better than you, and that's okay. Don't go comparing yourself to a whole group of people as proof that you are not worthy, because you can't win. You just can't win.
It's kind of you gotta put blinders on. It's like your road is not like, just because the path that you are on is someone else's path. You should not be trying to run someone else's path that is not your path.
Right.
Yeah.
Camera, it's 2:30. We have time for one more question. And then we will find the best one.
Find the best one. Oh my word. Like there's a few good ones that so many people in the beginning commented some really great questions and also at the end. And I'm like, I'm so sad that everyone here, thank you so much for your questions. Know that if we don't get to them, it's not because they weren't good. It's not because they were like unanswerable. It's just you have so many questions for us and we can't get to all of them in the 30-minute time. I will be looking at these afterward, copying them over, and we might answer them in the next live, which will be bi-weekly, not next week, but the week after, which dates can go over my head. Maybe I'll answer them in my live on Thursday. Come to them. If you want to ask another live, I'm going to sponsor my live. Go to the mental health happy hour or ask them on Apple Podcasts on the Mighty Podcast, because we'll totally look at them there. Let's see. Oh my word, so many good questions. I think I'm going to go with the one that I was going to answer. It's a little bit of an earlier question. But I feel like this is, I think a lot of the conversation we were talking about too, about like with people talking bad about, or like, how do we talk to people about mental health? Who do we tell? Who should we tell about our mental illness to? Certain people, everyone? And at what point is the right time to tell people that we have a mental illness?
Tracy, I love this question because it's so personal. For example, for me, I decided to tell everybody, like just everybody. I have a podcast, a book. I mean, for real. I'm basically doing everything at this point, but yelling it from the rooftops. Like that's the only thing that I'm not doing, and that works for me. It's a decision that I was able to make because my family supported me, because I have the privilege to do so, and because I'm in a position to do so. It's not the right choice for everybody. I will say that it's very lonely if you tell no one. And I always get on that because somebody says, look, I can't afford to lose my job. I don't want to lose my friends. My family wouldn't understand. So, and they have all these reasons that they can't tell people. And listen, I am going to accept all of those reasons as 100% valid. My advice to them is go to a bipolar support group, whether in person or online, whether you find a community like the Mighty where you can make online friends, or a Facebook group. Have somebody that you can talk to about what you're going through so that you don't feel left out. And don't feel bad about that. You know, I do not have children, but most of my friends do. And they constantly talk parenting with everybody but Gabe. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel left out or bad because I don't understand parenting. So it's okay to find other people with, you know, depression, bipolar disorder, mental illness that understand, and vent to them, discuss with them, exchange ideas with them, commiserate with them, cry with them. All of that's okay. I recommend finding that tribe. As far as the people in our personal lives, your mileage may vary. I was very fortunate to be able to tell every single member of my family and friends, but I know that that's not always the case. Pick the people that you want to tell. If you're afraid of consequences at work, don't tell your workplace unless you have to. And then if you do have to tell your workplace, tell human resources. Protect your rights. Do it smart, as they say. Don't just blurt it out on a blog or a piece of paper and put it under everybody's cube. Be smart about it. And then finally, when you do tell people, choose the people who you believe will accept you for you, and you know, give people a chance, but be prepared for two things. One, be prepared for questions. They're going to have questions. Well, are you sure? How do you know? Well, I don't think you are. No, you're fine. Don't buy into it. Be prepared for all of that. And two, don't get angry. Let's be honest with ourselves. When we first found out that something was wrong, we had questions. We were scared, confused, angry. We had an array of emotions. It's not unrealistic that the people that we tell are going to have those same emotions. So pick a time to tell them when you are in a good space, and sit down and say, Mom, Dad, brother, sister, friend, whomever, I need to tell you something. I live with mental illness. Create the space so that they can ask all of their questions. Tell them that you want to be their friend, and you want support from them, and you want to support them. Do it together. Tell them what you need. Be honest. Be straightforward. Be open. Be okay with it. And that will bring you closer together. You'll get the support you need. But please, don't get mad at people when you tell them. So often I hear that. Well, I told my mom and she said, what, you think you're a whack job? And then I yelled at her. that is an insensitive thing to say, but it's not unusual, and we can handle it better, and then we don't have to risk that upset, that hurt. My mom said many an insensitive thing accidentally, and by working together, not only does she not say them anymore, but she helps educate other people on what not to say when their children come home with bipolar disorder. I did write the book, Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations. You can get a signed copy on my website, gabehoward.com. I also host a very cool podcast, Inside Mental Health. You can get that on your favorite podcast player or by going to psychcentral.com/show. Camera, plug all your stuff and let's head on out of here. You're on mute, I think. I can't hear you.
Okay. Hello. Sorry, I muted myself for a second so that Gabe could give a wonderful spiel and I would not smiling giddily tap my hands. So if you have not yet, the Mighty podcast is out. Our first episode on PTSD and mental health during the pandemic is out. I'm one of the voices on it. That's fun, right? I talk about my experience, and also our wonderful coworker and director of video content and everything, Ashley Kristoff, is on it. Sarah Schuster, Brittany McCoy, you're going to want to hear this conversation. You're going to want to ask us questions and figure out what we should talk about next. So please go listen to the Mighty podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts that it is available. Those are the main ones that we have it on. But if there's a place, let us know. That's the main thing. I'm not going to really plug me. I mainly just want to plug the Mighty podcast right now. So that's where we're plugging. And thank you all for submitting your questions. I know we didn't get to many of them. You had so many today, and just thank you for submitting, and thank you for commenting. And I will be going through these questions and seeing if we can do a few in 2 weeks as the first beginning round of our questions. And also my little quick mental health happy hour. If you want to come there and leave some questions on Thursday, we'll be happy to answer them there. So thank you so much. Thank you, Gabe. Yeah, so that's all.
Thank you, Camera. You were awesome.
Thank you. Well, have a wonderful day, everyone.